Hi there, I'm Rachel Baxter. I'm going to share an experience I had with the Lord on January 20th of 2026 recently. This was middle of the night. I was awakened and I heard very clearly in the spirit from the Lord, "Arise, shine like the brightness of the dawn." As I was opening my eyes, I saw what I knew was a tear in the fabric of space and time. So that was an impression. I saw this thing with my eyes, and the Lord dropped a knowing in my spirit of what I was seeing. So there was an opening that appeared to be above me and off to the right. I could see it as though it was diagonal to my position, cutting through the sky. It was perhaps thousands of feet away from me and covered a third of the view of the sky that I had. And of course, I knew I was in my bedroom, and yet I was seeing this. So I got up, I came downstairs to get a drink of water. The Lord drew me to sit in the darkness with him instead of going back to bed. I knew he wanted me to observe in the spiritual realm that what he was showing me. So I sat uncomfortably so as not to fall asleep, but I closed my eyes. I again saw the tear in space and time appear before me in the same position. Now I saw coming out of it a hideous creature that was vast and came through the entire 1/3 of that tear. Like it was as big enough to come through that tear. And it was like it was being birthed, like stretching through it. Okay. Like it would when a child comes forth from the womb. It came forth and seemed to come towards me so that it was directly in front of me, hovering. What first hit me was its unnatural feminine quality as it approached. Remember that it was hideous. It was just ugly. I was praying fervently to the Lord during this encounter. I felt safe, protected. I was seeing something it wasn't like I was experiencing it. I was allowed to view this thing happening. The figure was a deep red, almost orange, burgundy, deep color. It had beady eyes. So that which was in the middle of it had beady eyes. It had a large horn upon its head. So it was horned. It was a horned figure. And then it's like, it didn't have arms, but I would call it winged. It was winged. Its expanse spread out after it came out of the tear. So it came out and then it spread out. And it was like the barbs on the wings. They weren't wings like to fly, but that's just the shape. There was wings like other horns on this creature. So those horns or triangular shapes were on these and spread out greatly. So the wings had horns on them too, but I didn't see other distinct faces like the main face that I was allowed to look at. It wasn't like it was looking at me, but I was allowed to see it. And there was a definite face to what was in the middle, was the most prominent horn. That big in the piece in the middle was this face with the horn, and then these other horns beside it. Now, in my heart came Daniel. I had been during this period, I was studying Daniel. That beast imagery came to my mind immediately. Okay. Then in the spirit, it was like I was taken up above a door. I was looking down upon a threshold, and I saw an ancient door of thick cast iron. I knew again in the spirit, I just knew this understanding. It was iron, and it opened, and I was looking down on it from above. I was seeing what was happening. The door opened and I was looking down, and there was a light shining upon it that I could see it. And then creatures were coming out of it. Under the door was a concrete or a stone step. The creatures would come and they would walk out onto the step and then step down onto the concrete or the stone ground and then walk. They were walking out of this doorway, this ancient doorway, into this space. I was watching them come from one area to another through this door, or one realm to another. And there was iron and stone. That's the kind of two primary things. So stone stair under the doorway that each creature would step down onto, then stepping again onto the concrete ground and walking forth. I did not have a sense of whether they were these creatures, these entities. They were beings of some sort, not human, that I didn't have a sense that they were, couldn't assign good or bad from the Lord or from the enemy, from Satan, and that they were evil. Just that I was being allowed to see an army. Okay. I believe there were an army that came through. So in the context of that, just reflecting on it right now, I would say because of what I had just seen, this beast coming forth, and then right behind it, these creatures coming through from one place or realm to another, it would seem that what I was seeing was an army tied to the beast. At that point, again, I'm half asleep, trying to be awake. I heard the Lord say again, arise, shine. So at that point, that look into the spirit ended. I knew that I was released to go to bed. Went back to bed in the morning. I was sharing that experience on a message stream with Doug and my other friend, Matt. And then Doug responded with some immediate things that came to his mind. So I'm going to share those here for your contemplation. And I will say at the end of this, I'm going to go through these scriptures and talk about this in detail. If you want to look at the meaning of this and go into the scriptures with me and into a more detailed teaching, and where I'm also going to tie signs in the heavens to this, because I believe this is tied. Obviously, the Lord was letting me see something happening as though it was happening in the heavens, and a tear in space and time. I want to tie that to signs that we've seen, and I believe we will see, tied to what God is doing in the earth. I will put a link in the description for you to go to a more detailed teaching after this. But let me just share with you some thoughts that Doug had at a high level for you to, if you want to study on your own. This Isaiah 60, where do we see this language, arise, shine? It's in Isaiah 60. What Doug said, his impression was the tear in space and time his sense was it was twofold. Firstly, us as the people of God stepping into our scroll, stepping into the scroll of the Lamb, our destiny in him. So what Doug was sensing was as the seals are removed from the scroll, and as I record this January 2026, I believe the first 5 seals have been opened. Okay, we are approaching 3.5 years since the first one began. We have not yet, in my opinion, seen the 6th and 7th seal open. And I believe the context of that is that there is writing on the outside of the scroll. Once the seals are opened, then the scroll can be opened itself and can be read. And that is where you see the first trumpet. So I do not believe we have seen the first trumpet, and I believe the first trumpet is tied to Great Tribulation. At this time, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but my best understanding from the Lord in what he's been teaching me about and asking me to share is that the Great Tribulation has not yet begun. But we are, from the time of the first seals having been opened, approaching in April will be that 3.5 year mark. Now, I believe that the opening of the seals does not have to be directly tied to the 3.5 year period. What I'm saying is there does not have to be a continuous 7-year period from October 5th, 2022, when the first seal was opened of the scroll, until the fall of 2029. That, my understanding of the Word of God is that's not required. We aren't looking for a 7-year continuous period. We are looking for when the Lord determines it is time to begin the Great Tribulation in the last 3.5 years. Just want to clarify that. But I do believe the first 5 seals are open, and we will see the 6th seal open according to God's perfect timing. Doug is referencing the seals being opened. Firstly, as we step into our destiny in the Lord and what he's doing, all the seals are removed so that the scroll can be opened. We step onto the timeline of the fullness of identity, walking in the fullness of Jesus in full possession of us, him walking in us. So walking perfectly with the Lord, following the Lamb wherever he goes. The fulfillment of Revelation 7 and 14, this 144,000, the 12 by 12 perfected government of Jesus Christ, the body with many parts, and Jesus Christ is the head. So this governmental vessel coming forth on the earth to administer as a weapon of warfare in his hand, okay? The righteous. All right. Doug speaking to that which the Lord is doing. And then, of course, also what I saw, the fullness of the enemy's plans and the fulfillment of what Daniel saw, I believe, for the time of the end. Doug also called out this terminology, arise, shine, okay, and the day star dawning that I heard first, and then I heard again, arise, shine. He said, of course, at 2 Peter 1:19, we have also a more sure word of prophecy, unto which ye do well that ye take heed, as unto a light that shine in a dark place until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts. It's talking about a future time. What's prophecy? It's what the Lord is saying will happen, and his words won't return void. So God doing something, that this day star, Jesus Christ, arising in our hearts, the day dawn. So this arise, shine, it's Jesus Christ indwelling a vessel. Okay, that's what 2 Peter is saying, and declaring the truth of this. So in the longer teaching, I'll go into where do we see in the Old Testament what Peter is referencing and recorded here in 2 Peter. So Doug said, for 1 John 2:6-8 comes to his mind, he that saith that he abideth in him ought himself also to walk even as he walked. Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment which ye have had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which ye have heard from the beginning. Again, a new commandment I write unto you, which thing is true in him and in you, because the darkness is past, and the true light now shineth. So speaking of John 13:34, a new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I love you, that ye also love one another. This place of us coming into unity of the one body, that we come together. And then Daniel 7:7-8, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Okay. And then Doug mentioned this feminine feel that I had sensed, the woman riding on the beast of Revelation 17. Lastly, Doug mentioned the beast having these 3 aspects of it: religious, governmental, and economic. And that, again, being tied to what the angel Gabriel had showed Terry Bennett in 2001, that there would be 3 7-year periods from 2008 to 15, 15 to 22, and 22 to 29, and that they would be marked by specific shaking, first economic, then governmental, and then religious. And all of those building one on another and coming into the fullness at the end of that period of time. Thank you, and I encourage you to continue on with the longer teaching. The link again will be at the bottom. Thanks.